Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and what you are looking at are the smallest Arctic figures ever. We've got ourselves the Hatchling Spinosaurus, and they are so small. First of all, my camera doesn't really enjoy focusing on them apparently, but they're also so small that they have to be sitting here on the turntable, not turned on so I can actually see them, without them spinning around here on me. But again, super tiny, as these are meant to be hatchlings of the brand new Spinosaurus family that they have just released. If you get nice and close here, you can see that they are so tiny but so awesome. And I'm really excited to actually take a closer look at all three of these. And I don't think we're going to do too much good looking at them from this distance since they're so small. So let's go ahead and just jump straight to that closer look right now. So we've got three different baby Spinosaurus this time around, and you can clearly see they are not articulated like you would normally find in Artic Figures releases, and that's just because they are just too small to be articulated. They are so tiny. It's honestly going to be quite crazy to see these next to the remaining members of the family that we have, which would be the adult, juvenile, and then the female. And you can again see that this one here is kind of, well, I guess you could technically put it on all fours if you want, or on its rear legs, which appears to be the case with this one. It's kind of standing up on its rear legs, and obviously it has its mouth open, so maybe our Spinosaurus, maybe the mother, maybe the father is bringing it some food. Maybe it's just snapping at something that flew by. I'm not entirely sure, but you can again see, as far as like a Jurassic Park style Spinosaurus goes, that is beautiful when it comes to a baby version. You can see the sail is so small, and which is something again you would expect to see for a baby. We've got the mouth open, and yes, it includes all the detail you would expect there to be. You can see the teeth on the inside of the mouth, nice big eyes for our baby Spinosaurus, and for its size, the actual fine detail is really well done, even though it's probably a little hard to really pick up on currently. It's definitely very nicely done. You can see the arms are held into a very adorable position right there. We've got a nice curve to the tail as well, so definitely going to be interesting to paint these guys. I don't know how high quality or how highly detailed my paint jobs are going to get for the hatchlings, but I'm very interested and kind of excited here to try. Then we've got ourselves a kind of standing, obviously in a bipedal position version here. We've got the tail outstretched, but has a nice curve to it as well. The mouth is closed on this version, but you can definitely see all the same situation that we saw with the first one, where we have the very nice small sail. We've got the arms in different positions on this one. The legs are also in different positions, as one leg is kind of stepping forward, the left leg is kind of trailing. Again, we've got those nice big eyes. Definitely, again, a gorgeous sculpt, and if you've been following Artic Figures on Instagram and keeping up with his updates with his Spinosaurus figures, you'll probably have already seen the 3D renders of these, which show you how insanely nice the actual fine detail is, and obviously at a bit of a larger size than you see on the actual, versions that release, because these are meant to be in scale with the adult and juvenile and mother, which are all 1/38 scale, so these would be 1/38 scale hatchling Spinosaurus figures. We also have another version here, and this one definitively has the female sail. There you go. You can now see that this one absolutely is a female. So not only has he created numerous little hatchlings, numerous little baby Spinosaurus here, he's also depicted them in a way where you can see that there is already different sexes, and we've got males and females here in the baby Spinosaurus, the hatchling Spinosaurus set that you can purchase again on their current Indiegogo campaign. This one is currently down in a quadrupedal position. They just look like little tiny crocodiles with sails on their back, which is super cool. And this one again is just as gorgeous as the others are. This one has its mouth opened a little bit, not quite as far as you saw in the one that was kind of lunging upward, but you can again see the sail looks great, the fine detail looks great. The fact that it's on all fours is also quite cool, because out of the bunch that we have here, this is the only one that is on all fours definitively. The one that's kind of reaching up, you can kind of put on all fours if you choose to. But I'm really psyched to get some paint on these guys and see how good they actually look, or how good I can actually make them, because yet again, I have the unpainted versions here. So let's go ahead, get them painted up, and we'll check them out from there. So I have finished painting these tiny little hatchlings, But I will say that after I actually had painted them and put quite a bit of detail into such a small figure, I gave them the usual dose of a clear coat, a sealer to seal up the paint job, and it feels like the sealer kind of like washed some of the detail of the paint away. But again, for a figure so small, even with the paint not looking as great as it once did, I feel like it turned out pretty nicely, and I went again with a coloration that I felt like could maybe be the color of a baby Spinosaurus, a like Jurassic Park 3 style baby Spinosaurus that maybe was just born, and of course it would potentially, transition over time to colors more familiar to us as far as like a Jurassic Park 3 version goes. I kind of gave it the dark grays. I also gave it the beginnings of some reddish tones running along the sail and on the top of the head and stuff, and it probably isn't picking up all that great on camera currently, but I definitely did my best as far as something so small when it comes to painting it up in at least as most of a realistic way as I possibly can. And then here is the version that's kind of leaning up and obviously has its mouth open. I think the trickiest part of painting these guys was painting the teeth, because I did actually go through the trouble. Oh boy, they're hard to hold sometimes because they're so small and I don't want to like squeeze them or anything, but I did go through the trouble of attempting to paint the teeth. It's not super obvious here looking at it because the teeth are so small, but I did paint them, and again, everything does look really cool on the figures. Like, they are super, super nicely sculpted. Artic Figures did a phenomenal job on all three of these baby Spinosaurus when it comes to their sculpts, because they really beautifully do replicate, again, a Jurassic Park 3 style Spinosaurus so nicely, and they definitely look to me as what a baby Spino would look like if it, were just a hatchling, like just fresh out of the eggs. Really is like what this one and the other two look like. And of course, this one here and the one that we had just taken a look at, they are males. You can tell by the shape of the sail and stuff compared to the version that Artic Figures is releasing anyway. Of course, we don't have any actual visual evidence of what a female Spinosaurus in the Jurassic Park 3, or well, I should just say the Jurassic Park franchise, could look like. So, of course, Artic Figures has taken some artistic liberties when creating these, but if you look at it in the overall grand scheme of things when it comes to the Artic Figures versions, those two are males. The one that is a female I gave a different style coloration to, because the females are going to have more of a caiman-like kind of paint scheme. So I tried to give this one something similar to what you might see kind of on a baby caiman. Not exact, because I obviously don't want to replicate the coloration of a caiman exactly. I want to have it, more unique to what a Spinosaurus could potentially look like. But obviously the sail is different. You can see that kind of divide there in the center. And this one much more nicely replicates a female version of a Jurassic Park 3 Spinosaurus. So I kind of tried to give it, that type of coloration. And it is a little bit flashier, I would say, than what we have on the males, because we have the white sort of tail and then the yellowish tones, or like yellowish brownish tones here on the side. But that, of course, would be something else that would sort of transition to what the adult will look like once we actually get the adult female painted up and everything at some point in the very near future. But you can definitely see, again, sculpt-wise, these are incredibly well done, and for their size, they are insanely, insanely impressive. You can see, if I bring them all back up here, we can very easily fit all three of these baby Spinosaurus in one hand, and there's room for tons more. They are that small. So they are a little bit interesting to paint. They're probably the second smallest figures that I've ever painted in my entire life as far as dinosaurs go. So they are very, very exciting as far as that goes. It's just neat trying to paint something so small. But you can again see that even if my paint isn't the best in the world, the sculpts are absolutely incredible. Another thing that I really like about these baby Spinosaurus is, as you can see, they kind of like all fit together to create a really cool sort of like a diorama of the three babies kind of playing together, or just in general hanging out together. But as far as the size goes, I don't know that we're really going to get too much of a size on any of them. You can see that the baby here, the standing version, is like 1.25 inches in length, or a little over, actually I'd say about 3.5 centimeters. So you can clearly see they are all very, very small. And then height-wise, the tallest is probably going to be this one that's looking up, and that one's about an inch, even though it doesn't look like it from your angle. I had to kind of get down and get next to it. It's about an inch, or about 2.5 centimeters overall. But I think it'll be more impressive to just give you a size comparison. So there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to our Artic Figures Hatchling Spinosaurus figures, and you honestly almost don't even notice them. They are so small down there by the foot of the T-Rex. And at 1/38th scale, as far as Hatchling Spinosaurus figures go, you're gonna expect them to be pretty small, and you can definitely see that here next to these figures. For another comparison, we have a Mattel minifigure as well as a Toy Monster International Captives Velociraptor Beta next to the Spinosaurus, and you can again see how small they are. They are absolutely tiny, but the comparison I think that's probably going to be the coolest one to see is, of course, our Spinosaurus family here together, and you can see we've got the juvenile as well as the adult male and the hatchlings here next to each other, and you can really see again how huge the other figures are in comparison to these little tiny baby hatchlings. And it really does look super cool once you actually look at them all together here. Again, you can see how incredibly cool the entire family looks together, but it is neat. Well, it's not the entire family. We still have the female yet, but you can see they look absolutely as epic as it gets all together. A really nice, beautiful looking Spinosaurus family, and I cannot wait to get the female added into this group as well at some point in the very, very near future. So I am always extremely impressed with everything that Artic Figures produces, but this time I think they are going above and beyond to give us some of the coolest figures that they have released yet this go around with the Indiegogo campaign, as we now have an entire family of Jurassic Park 3 Spinosaurus figures. And as we've already taken a look at the adult male, we've already taken a look at the juvenile, we now are looking at the youngest of the family with these 3 hatchlings, and I love how he sculpted them out again to not only look like Jurassic Park 3 Spinosaurus in a very, very small hatchling form, but he's also sculpted them out in a way where you can see that we have difference between the males and females, and that's something he as well has done with the adult versions, but it just looks so cool to have versions of Spinosaurus like this where there's difference between the different sexes and just gives you a much more realistic visual of a Spinosaurus family together. And this is kind of revolutionary for Artic Figures, because this is the first time that we've had an Artic Figures release that didn't include articulation, so that's definitely very interesting as far as these hatchlings go. But obviously these hatchlings are so tiny, there's no way you could actually have articulation on these super tiny little hatchling Spinosaurus figures. They're just way, way too small. But he's done a great job of sculpting each and every one out in a different position where they all have a beautiful, very realistic individuality to them with different poses and different positions. And in fact, not only do they have different poses, but every pose is very different from the other. None of them have a pose that looks even remotely similar, I would say. And I also love the fact that you can kind of combine them to create one really cool diorama where they sort of like all go together to have that very adorable hatchling look to them. Of course, again, these ones are painted by me. He is offering painted and unpainted versions on the Indiegogo campaign, so you can, head on over there and purchase yourself the painted versions, or you can paint them up yourself like I have here. And even though they are extremely small, so it doesn't leave much room for me to get a nice, naturalistic paint job as far as the application of the paint goes, I was pretty happy with the way they turned out, and I think they actually look pretty neat. So again, another absolutely amazing release from Artic Figures. If you are interested in picking up any of these Spinosaurus that you have just seen, make sure you check the link in the description to head on over to the Indiegogo campaign that is currently live and grab yourself some Spinosaurus today. And make sure you also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.